Listen, if we even think you owe us money, you won't know what hit you. We'll put liens on everything you own. Raid your bank accounts, retirement fund, pension. You'll open up your paycheck and cry because we'll already have the money. We'll haul you into federal court and you might even go to jail. Hey, it's our job.
Don't fight the IRS alone. The Tax Doctor is here to help you negotiate your tax bill and reduce your stress. Our experts will fight for you using IRS guidelines to stop any IRS actions like bank levies or wage garnishments. Plus, eliminate penalties and interest and reduce your past tax bill so you pay the IRS less. Help is here to deal with the IRS to reduce your stress. If you owe $10,000 or more in back taxes, do not call the IRS alone. Call a tax doctor now for a tax emergency analysis.
I'd have my mom call the number on the screen. You come see me alone. We'll work it out. Really, we will.
Attention timeshare owners. This is an urgent consumer alert from the Timeshare Exit Hotline, a national company specializing in helping consumers legally get out of their expensive timeshare contracts. We're offering you a way to legally get rid of your timeshare. So if you're fed up with the maintenance fees that keep on coming and want to learn if you can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, call today. Even if you've tried before and were unsuccessful in getting rid of your timeshare, call today and see if we can help. We offer a complete 100% unconditional client satisfaction guarantee. Make this completely free call and learn how we can help you legally put an end to your timeshare nightmare once and for all. You have nothing to lose, so call right now to qualify and receive a free consultation. You can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, but you've got to call now. Call the number on your screen today. It's a free call.
Hey, AMP News Patriots, join us in saluting the unwavering heroes who rush towards danger and are always there when you need them. Presenting the First Responder 911 Foundation Challenge Coin, masterfully crafted by our artisans to pay tribute to our heroes. Own this beautiful memento of our gratitude for your support while celebrating their courage and their dedication. For only $29, you can support those who serve and protect. Secure your challenge coin today at firstresponder911.org. Order yours now.
When I grow up, I want to work for a woke company, like super woke.
When I grow up,
I want to be hired based on what I look like.
I want to be judged
by my political beliefs.
I want to be a conformist.
When I grow up, I want to be offended
by my coworkers and walk around the office on eggshells.
When I grow up, I want to weaponize my pronouns. What are pronouns?
It's time to grow up and get back to work. Introducing the #1 woke-free job board, redballoon.work.
Hello, everybody. Mark Schaftlein with you, and this is the Schaftlein Report. It's Tuesday's edition. We are broadcasting from South Florida, Delray Beach, and from the great state of Connecticut. Snowbound right now, but soon to change. Joe Visconti, welcome back to Schaftlein Report on Patriot TV. Happy to have you with me today.
Thanks for having me on in this great new year. I can feel the energy coming. Everything's happening.
You really can. I mean, it's pretty awesome out there. You know, Joe, the year has started off and the campaign strategies are starting to at least come into full circle on the Democratic side. And you know what? It doesn't shock me at all that we're seeing Joe Biden take the low road. When you have nothing to run on and the American people by like 75-25, something around there, think you're too old to be in office, the only thing he can do is attack Donald Trump. You know, he would go months without mentioning his name, and then he does a campaign speech in South Carolina. He mentions his name up almost 40 times. Joe, why is Biden taking the low road, and why are these Democrats so nervous right now?
Well, you said it. You know, buy my product because the other one's crap. That's what he's doing. I mean, it's the oldest sales trick in the world. But I mean, it's you have to laugh at it, but at the same time, because he's so old, I can't say old. He's got whatever he's got going on upstairs mentally is not laughable, but it's his handlers. I don't even think they can give him the right sound bites to say because he's just, it's a mess. It's a mess. You know, they have that old saying I've mentioned on your show before, as a king, so is the land. Well, this king is like cuckoo and the land is cuckoo right now.
It's really insane. I mean, his entire election strategy seems to be blame Trump for everything. And like I said, in that speech in South Carolina, he mentions his name 40 times. Joe, he can't talk about the economy. He can't talk about border security. I mean, he can talk about some chip plants being built, but my goodness, that doesn't affect the average American.
The thing is, what he didn't do, and what he caused, allowed, et cetera, from the border to Ukraine to you name it, is seared in everyone's brain. You remember that hypothalamus? It's planted in my hypo. What was that quote from Blasey Ford? I mean, that's what's happened. People can't get out of what they just experienced. And now credit card bills, as we're going to talk about them, but they're due. I mean, boom, Christmas is over. And between now and Valentine's Day, everyone is like panicking, sinking. What did I buy that for? I bought this. I was guilty. I did this. My kids. So people are just having compounded stress right now. I'm talking the average American worker, and It's not a good time for the Biden campaign. They definitely need to deflect.
Well, it's Joe, we've talked about this a lot of times, and it's almost like a flat line. The numbers don't change. 74% of Americans say he's too old to run. That's strike one. Yeah. His approval rating literally is stuck between 39 and 40%. That's strike two. And then really strike three is 67% say the country's moving in the wrong direction. I want to know who the 33% are. I know who they are. They're hardcore Democrats. But when you have numbers like that, that is problematic. And Democrats are actually openly speaking, what are we going to do about this guy? Now, other polling's come out and it's been a little bit closer. Trump up by 2, by 3. Those are numbers that could be overcome. But when your candidate's 81 years old and he's not getting any younger, wrong direction of the company, low approval rating, these numbers are eerily very similar to Jimmy Carter numbers, although I believe it's worse. And the reason I think it's worse, Joe, he's losing key demographics that support him. Now, will they come back? Sure, they could come back. There's no doubt about it. But, I don't see it. And we're going to talk about the Republicans here in a minute. But, Joe, is there anything in your mind other than, we'll just call it election problems, getting in the way of the Democrats maybe getting Biden and ditching him and getting a new candidate?
I think they're going to do what they always do, bring up to January 6th, the kingdom come, pound out insurrection, pound up Trump as a traitor, and just go down that rabbit hole. Also, you can catch all the news reports are making it look like gas is going to be lower. They're making it look like the border is safer. They're doing a lot of head fakes, we call it, in sports, it's a head fake, and they're politically doing head fakes. But those 33% you were speaking about that are Democrat hardcore, they don't need the head fake. They're just going to stay in the game. But There's too many people from different walks of life, and not just politically. It's the American Jewish voters. I mean, they're shocked at how far the radical left has taken over their party. African Americans are waking up to, wow, this is what they're doing to Trump. That's all getting compounded as we watch the year. So I just think natural event disasters, blunders, and like our head of the military not reporting he's in the hospital, one thing after another will just compound, and they just can't keep putting Band-Aids on it. The public is awake, and now every time they watch the news and they see one of these narrative switches, they're like, what? No, that's just happened. So people are paying attention, and they're looking for a way out politically, not to vote Democrat. And that's why I think RFK, the last poll came out, RFK in 3 of the 4 states. Trump tweeted it yesterday. RFK's in, I think it was Arizona or New Mexico. He's at 8%, 10% in Georgia. He's taking the Democrat votes. That's what the latest poll that Trump tweeted yesterday, or he put up on Truth Social, shows. It's bad, and RFK is hurting the Democrats more than, and so the big question is, what do they do about RFK?
I don't think they can do anything about RFK. Ultimately, Joe Biden's going to have to make a decision if he gets far enough down in the polls and the Democratic convention's approaching. Yeah, he will have sewed up the nomination on for the Democrats. But once you get to that convention, it's never too late for him to change his mind. Think about this.
Yeah.
The guy's never lost an election. Mentally, he thinks he's unbeatable. He's been in the Senate since 29. He was vice president 8 years, and now he's been president 4. He's thinking he's bulletproof, but he's not bulletproof. And we've seen the results of 3 years, the devastation that under his leadership that this country's going through. Joe, we're going to shift over and talk about Republicans now, but I got to tell you something. I am not 100% convinced he'll be the nominee, but right now, I don't see anybody taking him on the Democratic side. So you're looking at a five-way race still. You're looking at Trump, Biden, Jill Stein, Cornel West, and Robert Kennedy. And, you said 8 to 10%. Kennedy's polling 14, 15 in some of these states. So,
there's two words. There's one name I think is the name that we all are dismissing. It's not even on anyone's minds or tongues, and she's the power player. It's Jill Biden. It's President, the First Lady. She is wielding the power that I believe is keeping the Democrats off from putting anyone. I think she's going to stay put and stay there, and she's making the calls, and no one sees that. They think she's in a flower dress and she doesn't have a brain or whatever people think of her, but she's very intelligent, and she knows what she wants, and she's there to protect Joe no matter what. And I don't care what anybody says. That woman is the one to be very watchful of, because she's there to protect him and keep him running for office. I don't think they're going to get by her. I wish they did, but they won't.
Yeah, I concur with your thoughts on her. I mean, when she's seen pulling him off the stage and things like that, she is the power behind the throne. Let's shift over to the Republican side, Joe. I mean, Iowa is less than a week away. Trump's up 25, 30 points. DeSantis is in second. He hasn't really moved a whole lot. But again, there have been no votes. Okay. Iowa, I've seen it in the past where it's come in different than they thought. But with a 25, 30 point lead, does Trump have any real danger in Iowa at this point? Or is it pretty much baked in the cake, even though like Trump right now is in a D.C. court fighting the immunity issue?
Well, the deep freeze, the weather, is probably the only thing he has to worry about. Iowa it's predicted to be super, super cold. That doesn't mean those people aren't proud of voting. So it's like Christmas to them or a national holiday. They're going out, and they will come out. But the weather would probably be the only thing that he has to be concerned with over there. Ted Cruz isn't around to pull the stuff he was pulling, and the field isn't that broad as it was in 2016. For him to be concerned, but New Hampshire is the place that I'm looking at.
Yeah. Well, let's do this, Joe. We're going to take about a 60-second break here, and when we come back, we're really going to dive into New Hampshire because while Iowa looks baked in the cake, New Hampshire is anything but. And if the mainstream media is right, we could have an interesting contest. Be back in 60 seconds.
When I grow up, I want to work for a woke company, like super woke.
When I grow up,
I want to be hired based on what I look like.
I want to be judged
By my political beliefs.
I want to be a conformist.
When I grow up, I want to be offended.
By my coworkers and walk around the office on eggshells.
When I grow up, I want to weaponize my pronouns. What are pronouns?
It's time to grow up and get back to work. Introducing the #1 woke-free job board, redballoon.work.
AMP News is now Patriot.tv.
We are here to defend democracy for the people.
All right, Joe, New Hampshire, you're right next to it. I'm hearing the mainstream media reports that Trump's up, his lead is shrinking, Nikki Haley's cutting into it. Again, on this show, we don't talk ill about any Republican. We love them all. But Joe, is the mainstream media trying to push independent voters and Democrats to vote for Nikki Haley to inflict some pain on Trump? You're right next door. You've been in New Hampshire. What's happening up there?
While you went to break, Steve Stepanek called. I just took the call on a 60-second break. We're doing phone banks. He's the advisor, one of the key advisors. And Steve, he was the New Hampshire chair for a couple of years. He had the first, and I think he's been on the show before. He had the first fundraiser for Trump back in 2015. So he just called me because I've been reaching out to him. And we're doing phone banks in Connecticut like we did. I organized in 2016, and I've got Georgia right now. The Real Political Savvy just messaged her. We're going to have Georgia and Connecticut do what's called remote phone banks. So we're organizing out other states the last 14 days to get out the GOP vote. You're correct. They're trying to, I'll just call it the bad guys are trying to get Nikki over the finish line and pulling the unaffiliated voters in to vote for her rather than Trump. So this is the battle that Trump actually, I was there working on the ground and remotely in 16. And it's where we kind of launched Trump when he won that, because he did lose Iowa to Cruz after New Hampshire. And in this case, after the Iowa caucus next Tuesday, we will start the phone banks, and a whole bunch of volunteers from New England are going to be flooding there to turn out more GOP voters. And that's the weakness, that they're fatigued. They may not come out. They may think Trump is just going to win. And it's the old game, but you got to get them out to realize that, no, she could get very close because DeSantis may drop. That's the rumor. And after Iowa, and if he did and doesn't endorse, and it's just a vacuum, and you got this big never Trump movement, and the Democrats and the whole enchilada, they're trying to get Trump to have a loss or have a crushing close win. So we're mobilizing to, I'm sorry to say it, but to put Nikki Haley out of business on January 23rd.
Well, interesting thing about it, Joe, Trump leads 39-32 in the actual polling. Now, she's come within 7 points. However, there's a whopping 43% of voters who have not decided yet. 43%, and you're 2 weeks away. And of those, a good chunk of them are leaning towards Nikki Haley. And Chris Christie getting some cred there, Trump in there. So, I mean, this is fascinating. I mean, what's really interesting about it, the mainstream media, Joe, they don't like Republicans, but for some inexplicable reason, they're willing to set aside the anti-Republican rhetoric for the benefit of Nikki Haley because they hate Trump so much. Is that what's going on here?
Well, let me tell you about the New Hampshire voter. The public, whoever's listening, watching, needs to know if you didn't. New Hampshire is a wild card, not because of politics. The people are so fatigued. I might have right in my house here and all across Connecticut in 2016 phone banks for weeks. And when you call people up, they're like, stop calling me. Who's calling me? They're so angry. They'll vote just because they don't want the phone to ring anymore. New Hampshire people are just crushed. It's talking about New Year's or Christmas. It's such a turn of events for the month of the primary for president forever, that many of them are thinking outside the box. They want to make statements, even if they want Trump in the general. They may want to get somebody else in the primary. We'll show him. So you've got a lot of moving parts in the psyche of the all New Hampshire voters. It's just the craziest place you've ever seen. It's a zoo politically, but it's fun. But you're correct. The 40% that haven't decided. This is one of the reasons we're doing the phone banks from other states. So this is all volunteer, just so you understand. This is how Trump won in 16. People like myself just got together and said, I ran for governor. I'm going to organize this whole state with all my email list, all the power I have on radio to get people up to New Hampshire physically and get on the phones. And the campaign does its boilerplate stuff, but then all of a sudden, all of us come up and we start doing our individual volunteer, you name it, throw it at the wall to get something to stick. And so that's the fun of politics, and it's the unknown. And Trump has been the master of that wild, master of ceremonies, circus ringleader when it comes to political campaigns. He inspires people to go, yeah. So don't be surprised Nikki doesn't do good. I think she ends up in maybe 24-25%. I think she's going to take that much during the primary of January 23rd.
Maybe more. maybe more.
I think she'll end up there.
Well,
but
you know what? The people in New Hampshire, they pride themselves on saying Iowa picks corn, New Hampshire picks presidents. So we'll see. I mean, we will see.
It's a live event.
It is going to be live. I know you're going to have a lot of fun. And folks, we'll be talking about this as we come up. Let's talk about some things that Biden is doing to really tick off his own Democratic base. Joe, he's openly, it's not even a secret anymore, trying to get the Israelis out of Gaza. And the Israelis want no part of it. I cannot figure out, Joe, for the life of me, why a Jewish Democratic voter would continue to support Biden, given that he's in the process now. He has no real political spine. He just goes wherever the wind blows. And his radical liberal base is telling him, you better be for Palestine, pro-Palestinians. He got booed up the other day, interrupted in his speech by pro-Palestinians demanding ceasefire, ceasefire. Well, Biden in his heart, he really wants that. But he can't go there. And he's literally in the rock and a hard place. Does he lose the Muslim vote in Michigan or the Jewish vote nationwide? I'm not sure which way he's going. But, boy, Israel is increasing their strikes against Hezbollah. I've seen minimal let up in Gaza. Now, they pulled back a little bit in North Gaza, but they're still pounding southern Gaza. Joe, how do you see it, his relationship with Israel?
Well, I live in the most Jewish town in Connecticut, and I was raised in the town. All my friends that are Jewish, just about, that I have coffee with. And we've been talking to a lot of Jewish Democrats that are not real lefties. And they're going to be quiet about this, but they realize that this plank that the Democrat Party is now establishing and bolstering up to be pro-Palestine, anti-Israel, is not going to go away with this election, whether Trump won or lost or whoever. It's going to be a party plank, and they're questioning whether this is going to pass or in 6 months it's still going to remain, and if it's going to be permanent. So however they vote this cycle, if the rhetoric continues for the Democrat Party to embrace the radical Gaza pro-Palestine genocide by the Jews, you're going to see moderate Jewish Americans just quietly stop donating. I'll probably see that effect in a month or two, if not now, and eventually stop voting that way. It'll be a quiet thing. It's going to be money first, pull the money, and then pull the vote. And not everyone, but I think they'll lose 10 to 15% of their, and we'll probably get close to 50% of the American Jewish vote in 4 years.
I would hope so. After this disastrous policy he has, and just literally openly arguing for the Israelis not to continue their attacks, I don't know. Joe, it's like everything this man does, it's upside down.
Well,
things I believe should be happening aren't.
But also, if you wed Antifa and Black Lives Matter and all the violence to Hamas, and you see the bridges closing and the marches, you start to make this look like anti-Israel is now violent. And that has repercussions back to the 1930s. Like, wait a minute, where are we going here? Our own party that we've embraced for our lifetime and given money to is what? Embracing something? We better wake up the way the Jews in Germany didn't wake up. And I don't mean anybody's Hitler. I mean the violence. And you have Antifa and BLM did violence and do violence. And that's now the violent wing of the Democrat Party. That's scary.
Joe, this Democratic Party is nothing like our father's Democratic Party. There is no semblance to it. Heck, it doesn't even resemble the Democratic Party when Barack Obama got elected president. So far to the left on everything. It is a scary thought. All right, let me shift a little bit to the economy, because most elections are won and lost based upon the economy. And I don't think this one's going to be a whole heck of a lot different. Consumer price index, Joe, up 17% since Biden became president. Yes, it's coming down, but prices are not coming down. 45% of Americans say they're worse off now than they were when Biden got elected, while only 23% say they're better. Joe, that's a negative 22-point swing. And with office vacancies hitting almost 20%, that's the highest level since 1979. And I think the most telling thing of all, besides those numbers, is the credit card debt. Over $1 trillion. 50% of Americans are only paying interest on their credit card bill. Joe, that interest is 20%. They'll never get up to pay it off. I think the economy, despite this Bidenomics, I think that's going to be just an anvil around his neck.
And the one thing you didn't mention is that the pay, part-time pay, because hardly any full-time jobs, unless they're really heavy licensed careers, is $15 an hour if you can find it. And single moms can't survive on that. So it's go on welfare or make $15 an hour. You 2 jobs that are part-time. I know people are doing this and they're stressed out. So then the holidays come, they want to buy presents for the kids. Then they need this or that emergency. Or the car insurance rates going through the roof, plus the energy. It's compounding, but you can't get money out of the system. There's no jobs that are paying and they're part-time. That piece was never. And so the pay shrinking and part-time work to pay those interest on the credit cards. And I've talked about with you on this show for 2 years that was going to get everybody in the end. The credit card mounting debt at loan shark interest rates.
Yeah.
And so you're absolutely right.
Interesting thing too, Joe, is the employment numbers that have come out recently. They've been wrong. I mean, they've had to revise down the employment numbers for the previous 2 months. And something called the birth-death rate ratio, it's not really an indicator of what the employment picture is. It's a government statistic calculation algorithm. It looks like to me jobs were overstated by about 400,000. They just were fictitious jobs. They didn't really exist. I mean, it would seem to me with the payroll taxes coming in, and you could look and see, I mean, there's got to be a better way than the Bureau of Labor Statistic does it. But I'm in your camp. I think when you really look at what people owe, unemployment's 3.7%, but it's an uneven distribution. Look, you cannot have so many more people feel they're upside down, negative 22% versus Biden than when Trump. And I think a lot of people are saying, that Trump, I don't like him. He's a loudmouth New York braggadocious liar, but he's my kind. When he was president, I was making money. We didn't have wars going on overseas. We're going to get at that in a minute. We didn't have tens of thousands pouring across the border. I mean, Joe.
We have millions. That's the other thing. We have millions, and they're eating into the safety net. Millions and millions of people that are here and they're in the school systems. And so that's just people realize that's going to sink us lower and lower. How do we get out of there? Trump announcing the largest mass deportation in American history if he's elected day one. People are loving that message because they know the safety net is broken. They can't afford things and money's being given to the people who don't belong here. And they only got $15 an hour, maybe part-time. It's a recipe for a Republican landslide.
Joe, we got 1 minute. We got 1 minute left. Can't end the show without talking about what Putin's doing in Ukraine. That aid package is still held up, but he's deploying National Guard troops, Russian National Guard troops, in areas that they've conquered in Ukraine. They've annexed them. Joe, is anything going to change the direction of this war? Or are we going to continue to have stalemate for another year?
Stalemate, big military industrial complex is going to cash in. All the NATO countries are just going to ramp up with all their arms. And it's a mess. Anything that Biden touches or is in control of will be a mess. It'll just be one mistake and mess until Election Day. And it's sorry to say a lot of people are going to be killed. Russia's doubling down right now.
Yeah, they are. Well, Joe, let me tell you something. Thanks for your input, particularly today. Insight to our viewers and listeners on that wacky New Hampshire primary. And we'll talk again pretty soon when the results come out. But thanks for joining me. Thanks for your input today. Folks, we'll be back on Thursday. Thanks for listening. Thanks for viewing. Stay safe. And for those of you in Iowa, get out and vote in your caucuses. See you on Thursday.
AMP News is now Patriot.tv. The world is about to shift. Banks are going cashless globally with the emergence of central bank digital currency, which will bring with it programmable money and the ability to turn on or off your purchasing power based on your digital social profile. It's like the equivalent of spyware in your bank account. You need to get out of the system with the world's safest and most private assets, silver and gold. Call Kirk Elliott, PhD, 720-605-3900.